Be me, 31, working a pretty stable help desk job at a mid-sized software company, sharing a 2-bedroom apartment with my girlfriend Lauren. We'd been dating a little over 2 years. At that point when we first got together, she was honestly great sharp, funny, could talk for hours about books or politics or random stuff. She cared a lot about her beliefs and the world in general. Even when I didn't agree with everything, I respected the passion. Figured it was good when people actually gave a damn about things. But somewhere along the way that passion started feeling different, less like personal opinions, more like a strict rule book, and weirdly it seemed like I was the only one expected to follow. It started with little remarks during movie nights. We'd be watching something, and she'd pause and go, "Don't you think the women in this movie are written kind of shallow?" Or, "This storyline is reinforcing some pretty harmful stereotypes, if you think about it." Early on, I'd actually try to talk about it, give my perspective, have a normal conversation, except it never really turned into a conversation. There was Lauren's view, and then there was my incorrect one. If I disagreed, even slightly, suddenly I was accused of having internalized misogyny or not recognizing my own privilege. After a while I stopped arguing, just nodded along. Yeah, I can see that. Way easier that way. Then the focus shifted to my hobbies. I've played video games since middle school. It's how I relax after work. Also the main way I keep in touch with friends who moved to other states to Lauren, though. Gaming was apparently a pipeline to toxic masculinity. She'd go on about how the games themselves were problematic, and the online communities were full of awful people. To be fair, she wasn't totally wrong about some corners of the internet, but in her mind the entire thing was one giant garbage heap. My weekly gaming night with my buddies suddenly became a whole issue. Every time I put on my headset, she'd let out this loud, dramatic sigh. She'd walk past my office and mutter stuff like, "Have fun yelling with a bunch of emotionally stunted dudes." Eventually, I just stopped pushing back on it, started playing only when she wasn't home, or after she went to sleep. Felt ridiculous, like I was sneaking around doing something bad when all I was doing was playing co-op shooters with friends. My best friend Mike ended up on her radar too. Mike's a pretty straightforward guy, married, expecting his first kid soon. Super dependable dude. Lauren decided he was a negative influence on me. Her reasoning was that he represented traditional masculinity in a problematic way. This conclusion came after he told a story about fixing his own kitchen sink instead of calling a plumber, according to her. That showed some deep psychological need for male self-reliance that prevents emotional vulnerability. I tried explaining he was just trying to avoid paying $200 for a plumber, but she'd already made up her mind, so anytime I said I was going to hang out with Mike, she'd give me this disappointed expression. "Oh, okay. Just try not to fall back into his caveman mentality." After a while, it felt like I was living inside a minefield every word I said, every little decision I made. Somehow got analyzed through her specific worldview. The way I sat on the couch was apparently man-spreading if I offered to carry heavy grocery bags. It was benevolent sexism if she complained about a problem and I suggested a solution. It was mansplaining, felt like I wasn't allowed to simply exist as a normal guy. I was basically a walking collection of problematic behaviors waiting to be corrected. And whenever she wanted to correct me, she had one favorite weapon, the silent treatment. Anytime I pushed back even a little, didn't matter how politely she'd deploy it. Immediately I'd say something mild like, "Hey, that feels a little unfair," and she'd just shut down, not regular quiet either. This cold, deliberate silence. She'd walk past me in the apartment, like I was invisible, like I was literally furniture in the hallway. If I asked a direct question, she'd stare straight through me, blank face, then turn around and leave the room without a word. It was unbelievably effective. The whole apartment would feel heavy, like the air itself was tense. I hate conflict more than anything, and I hate knowing someone's mad at me. So usually after a day or two of that atmosphere, I'd apologize, even though half the time I wasn't even sure what I'd done wrong. Sorry for disagreeing. Sorry for not immediately seeing things her way. Didn't really matter what the apology was. For once I said it, she'd accept it like a judge granting mercy, then follow it up with a long lecture about why she was correct and how I needed to educate myself and do the work. After that, things would go back to normal, which basically meant me carefully walking on eggshells until the next argument popped up. That was our relationship for almost a full year. By that point, I felt exhausted all the time, constantly on edge. I barely talked to some of my friends anymore, barely touched my hobbies, felt like I was slowly disappearing as a person. Then the moment happened, Friday night. A few months ago, we were on the couch watching some brand new sci-fi movie. Honestly, pretty entertaining. There's this quick scene during a space battle. The male lead is a veteran pilot. The female lead is a rookie, flying her first mission during the chaos. He gives her a quick tip over the comms, something simple like, hold your speed, steady on approach, super quick, line, blink, and you miss it. Suddenly, Lauren grabs the remote and slams pause, screen freezes on the actor's face, mid-sentence. I immediately recognize the expression on her face. That expression always meant trouble. Did you catch that? She asks, voice tight. I pretend not to know what she means. Catch what? The alien cruiser blowing up? No, she says, turning toward me. The mansplaining that just happened. I let out a long sigh. Work had been brutal that week. My brain was fried. Lauren, he's the senior pilot and she's the trainee. He's literally just telling her how not to get killed. Wrong answer, apparently. That's exactly the problem, she snaps, voice climbing. The story automatically assumes the man is the authority and the woman is inexperienced. He didn't even give her a chance to figure it out. He just bulldozed over her with his so-called expertise. It's a textbook example of media refusing to trust female competence. I rub my eyes with both hands. I seriously did not have the energy for this debate tonight. Okay, I get what you're saying, I mumble. Can we just keep watching the movie? She leans forward slightly. So you agree the scene was problematic? Normally I would have just nodded and ended it there. But something about that moment, maybe exhaustion, maybe frustration, I just couldn't fake it this time. Honestly, not really. It just seemed like a normal movie line to me. I don't think it's that deep. Her expression goes cold instantly, like a switch flipped. I see, she says quietly, voice suddenly low and sharp. You're getting defensive. You can't even acknowledge a basic example of cinematic patriarchy. I hold my hands up. I'm not defensive. I just disagree with you. Am I allowed to have a different opinion? Can't we just disagree about a movie and move on? Apparently not. That sentence, right? There was the line. I crossed the idea that my opinion could exist without being wrong was unacceptable. She stared at me for a long time, not angry exactly, more like she was examining some stranger she'd never met before. Fine, she finally said, voice cold enough to freeze the room. It's obvious you're not capable of having a constructive discussion right now. You're clearly not willing to listen. She stood up from the couch. I'm not speaking to you until you've had time to reflect on your attitude and you're actually ready to hear me. Then she turned, walked down the hall, and shut the bedroom door. Sharp click of the latch echoing through the apartment. Silent treatment officially activated. I sat there alone in the living room, movie still frozen mid-scene on the TV. Same old feeling rolled over me. Anxiety. Exhaustion. Dread great, here we go. Again Saturday morning, I wake up and she's already in the kitchen making coffee like nothing happened. I say morning as I walk in. Nothing, not even a glance in my direction. She just moves around the kitchen like I'm invisible. I pour myself some coffee and sit at the small table. She scrolls on her phone across from me. Dead silence tension, so thick you could practically slice it. Spent most of the day hiding in my office, pretending to work on stuff just to avoid being in the same room every time I stepped out to grab water or food. She'd turn her back or suddenly leave the room the moment I walked in, childish as hell. But effective made me feel like a ghost inside my own apartment. By Sunday, the guilt started creeping in, like usual. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was being stubborn. Maybe I should have just agreed with her about the stupid movie scene. I thought about knocking on the bedroom door and apologizing just to end the whole thing. But something in my brain just refused. This time, I was so damn tired. The idea of another groveling apology followed by a long lecture sounded worse than the silence, so I didn't do it. Instead, I texted Mike, "Hey man, you busy?" He replied almost instantly, "Nah, just watching the game, what's up?" I sent him a quick summary. Lauren hasn't spoken to me since Friday because I disagreed with her about a movie scene. Like 10 seconds later, my phone rings. "It's Mike," he answers with zero greeting. "Dude, you're telling me she's been ignoring you since Friday because of a movie?" "Yeah, pretty much," I hear him laugh on the other end. "And you're letting that stress you out?" "Kinda hard not to," I said. "The vibe in here is awful. Then his tone shifts a little. Listen to me, man. This isn't a punishment. This is a vacation. I blinked. What? Think about it, he says. You don't have to walk on eggshells. You don't have to worry about saying the wrong thing. No lectures about patriarchy, no debates. Nothing? You've been gifted pure peace and quiet. Don't waste it. I had never looked at it like that before. She's expecting you to crawl back and apologize, he continued. Don't. Just live your life normally and see what happens. We talked a bit longer. By the time the call ended, something in my head had shifted. He was right. Why was I sitting there feeling guilty? I didn't cheat. I didn't insult her. I just disagreed about a movie line for the first time in a long while. I felt this tiny spark of rebellion light up in my chest. That evening I opened the storage closet, dug through some old blankets and boxes, and found my old game console thing had been sitting there almost a year, because it always caused arguments. I wiped the dust off and hooked it up to the living room TV, her TV, the one she usually used for documentaries and political panels. I put my headset on, sent a message to my group chat. Within minutes I was logged in. My friends' voices flooded my headphones. Holy hell, where have you been, man? We thought you vanished. Sorry, guys, I said. Life stuff. We played for hours, laughing, yelling, talking trash felt normal. Again felt good. At one point, the bedroom door opens. Lauren walks out, probably heading for the kitchen. She stops dead in the middle of the living room. There I am on the couch, headset on, controller in hand, grinning like an idiot. I notice her in my peripheral vision, look over for a second, give a casual nod, then turn right back to the screen. She just stands there, frozen probably 30 seconds straight. Her face is this mix of shock and pure disapproval. I can practically feel the anger radiating across the room. Didn't matter. I was busy winning a match. Finally, she lets out this dramatic huff, turns around, marches back to the bedroom door, slams. My friends hear it through the mic. Yo, what the hell was that? One of them asks. Just the wind, I say. Everyone laughs that night. I slept on the couch. Not because she kicked me out. I just didn't feel like dealing with the bedroom tension. And honestly, the couch was pretty comfortable. Monday morning, I got up early, got ready for work, left before she even woke up. After work, I did something I hadn't done in months. I stopped by the gym, had a great workout, felt amazing. Afterward, came home energized. Lauren was in the kitchen making some kale and quinoa bowl for herself. She shot me this cold look when I walked in, clearly expecting me to come crawling back after the weekend. I just smiled and said, "Hey," then opened the fridge, pulled out a thick ribeye I bought on the way home. Her eyes widened a little when she saw it. She hated red meat, always called it processed cancer or something. I seasoned it up, heated my cast iron skillet, and seared it in butter and garlic, whole apartment filled with that steakhouse smell. I could see the disgust written all over her face, didn't bother me at all. I sat down with my steak-roasted potatoes and a cold beer. She sat across from me, silently poking at her sad little salad. The silence was still there, but it felt different now. It wasn't her silence anymore. It was mine, and it was actually peaceful. The rest of the week followed that same pattern. I started reclaiming my routine gym. After work, cook whatever I wanted for dinner, jump online with friends at night. I even started reading a book series I'd been putting off forever, deep cleaned my office, organized all my old gear. For the first time in ages, my apartment actually felt like my space again. Not some ideological courtroom. Meanwhile, Lauren seemed to get more irritated every day. The silent treatment was supposed to control me, make me miserable, force me to beg for her approval. Instead, it was doing the opposite. I was happier, sleeping better, less stressed, actually. Laughing again, and she was the one walking around, miserable, trapped in the quiet. She created force to watch me enjoying life without her involvement. Around day 5 or 6, it finally dawned on her. Her main weapon wasn't working anymore. Around that point, she realized the silent strategy wasn't working, so she tried something new, passive aggression. Suddenly, she started having these long phone calls with her friend Emily, always in the next room, always with the door conveniently open, volume just loud enough for me to hear every word. "I just don't know what to do anymore," she'd say dramatically, voice dripping with fake sadness. "He's so immature. He literally can't handle a real conversation. He just runs away and hides in his little video games instead of growing up. It's like he has zero emotional intelligence. I try so hard to help him evolve, but he's stuck in these toxic patterns. First time I overheard it. Yeah. It stung a bit, but then I grabbed my noise-canceling headphones, turned my music up, problem solved. She tried other little tricks too, leaving articles open on the shared laptop. Stuff like, warning signs your partner might be a narcissist, or how to deal with male fragility in relationships. I'd just close the tabs without reading them. She'd walk into rooms and sigh loudly when she saw me mutter things under her breath, loud enough that I could hear the tone, but not the actual words. None of it worked. I was basically a rock, a calm, content rock. Second weekend of the Great Silence rolled around. Mike texted me asking if I wanted to grab beers with a few guys from college, said they were meeting at a bar downtown. I told him I'd be there Saturday evening. I'm getting ready to head out, jacket on. Keys in hand, when Lauren suddenly appears in the hallway, standing directly between me and the front door. Arms crossed, face furious. She doesn't say a word, but the message is obvious. You're not going out and enjoying yourself while I'm punishing you. I stop a few feet away from her. Excuse me, I say calmly. She doesn't move, just stares at me like she's trying to burn a hole through my skull. I don't argue, don't push past her. I just stand there patiently. We stay like that for about a minute. Silent standoff in the hallway. Then I shrug, turn around, walk into the living room, open the window, and climb out onto the fire escape. Our place was only on the second floor, so it was an easy drop to the ground. I hear her gasp behind me as I disappear out the window. Met up with the guys. Honestly, one of the best nights I'd had in years. Nothing heavy, no debates about ideology, just dumb jokes, stories from college, arguing about sports and movies. Conversation, where I didn't have to analyze every sentence before saying it. It felt easy, normal. When I got home late that night, all the lights in the apartment were on. Lauren was sitting on the couch waiting. Looked like she'd been stewing for hours. I walked in, and the glare she gave me could have melted steel. She clearly expected me to be locked out. Probably thought I'd be banging on the door, begging to be let in the fire. Escape plan? Ruined that whole scenario. I just nodded at her. Hey! Then went to the kitchen to grab a glass of water. She was radiating anger, like waves of heat in the room. She was completely losing control of the situation, and she had no idea how to fix it. Her entire playbook relied on me reacting the way I used to. But the version of me she'd spent 2 years training was gone in his place. Was this calm, relaxed guy who just didn't care about the manipulation anymore? I knew a confrontation was coming. Eventually the silence wouldn't last forever. She'd have to break it somehow, probably with a direct attack, once the other tricks failed. I didn't know when it would happen, but I knew it was coming soon. And for the first time I wasn't nervous about it, I was ready. But that night wasn't it. I think the fire escape move genuinely short-circuited her plans. She didn't have a script for that, so she retreated back to the bedroom. I stayed up for a while and eventually crashed on the couch again. Next morning was Sunday, 2 full weeks since the Great Silence started. I woke up feeling surprisingly good, decided to make a real breakfast, the kind I usually avoided, because she'd complain about the smell or the calories. Bacon, eggs, fried potatoes, the works. The whole apartment smelled amazing. I'm sitting at the table eating and scrolling through the news on my phone, when Lauren walks into the kitchen already dressed for the gym in her workout clothes. She completely ignores me, and the giant breakfast on my plate opens the fridge and pulls out one of her bottled green smoothies, stands by the counter, sipping it while staring out the window. The silence felt different that morning, less angry, more brittle, like frustration mixed with desperation. I finish my breakfast, take the plate to the sink and wash it. While I'm drying my hands, I notice her watching me, through the reflection in the microwave, door eyes narrowed, calculating. I ignore it and head into my office to start my day. Couple hours later, I hear a loud crash from the living room, followed by a sharp gasp. I get up and walk out to check on. The floor is my favorite coffee mug, shattered into pieces. Mike gave it to me years ago, from a brewery we visited on a road trip. One of a kind couldn't replace it, even if I tried. Lauren standing over it with her hand covering her mouth, perfect little performance of shock. "Oh my God," she says first words. She's spoken to me in 14 days, voice full of fake horror. "I'm so sorry. I was dusting the shelf and it just slipped." I look at the broken mug, then the shelf, then her. The shelf is spotless, not a speck of dust. Her hands are perfectly clean. It's painfully obvious she smashed it on purpose. This was the final play. She wanted a reaction, wanted me to yell, get angry, finally show emotion. She could twist against me, she wanted me to shout, "How could you break my favorite mug?" So she could immediately pivot into, "Wow, so you care more about a mug than my feelings?" I could practically see the whole conversation tree mapped out in my head. For a second I felt real anger that mug actually meant something to me, and she destroyed it just to score a point. But then the anger faded, replaced by this weird sense of clarity. I wasn't playing this game anymore. I looked at her still frozen in her shocked pose, gave a small, tired smile. "It's okay," I said calmly. "Accidents happen." I walked past her into the kitchen, grabbed the dustpan, and broom came back and started sweeping the pieces up her jaw, literally dropped. This was not how the script was supposed to go. I was supposed to be furious, hurt something. Instead, I just quietly cleaned the mess, swept every last shard into the dustpan, dumped it in the trash, put the broom away, then turned back toward her. "No big deal," I said casually, like she'd spilled a glass of water. "I'm gonna go finish some work." I walked back to my office and shut the door. That was the moment everything finally snapped. I'd basically neutralized her last play. She wanted a fight, and I refused to give it to her, about 10 minutes after I went back to work. My office door slams open, Lauren standing there, shaking with rage, face bright red eyes blazing. The calm mask she always wore was completely gone. Silent treatment. Officially over. "What the hell is wrong with you?" she yells. Voice cracking, I slowly spin my chair to face her. Don't stand up, just look at her calmly. "I break something you care about and you don't even react," she continues. "You just smile and say it's fine. Do you even have emotions?" I take a slow breath. Yeah, I was annoyed about the mug, but yelling wasn't going to magically fix it. I was irritated, I say evenly. But it's already broken, so I cleaned it up. "This isn't about the mug," she shouts, stepping further into the room. "This is about you. For 2 weeks you've been acting like a sociopath." She starts pacing around my tiny office back and forth, like she's preparing for a speech, which she basically was. "I gave you space so you could think about your toxic behavior," she says loudly. "And what do you do with that space? You treat it like a vacation. You play your stupid sexist video games. You go out drinking with your caveman friend. You walk around here smiling like nothing's wrong." She gestures around the room dramatically. "I have been miserable waiting for you to show some remorse. Just one apology. One sign you're mature enough to admit you were wrong. But you can't do that, can you? Your fragile male ego won't allow it." I just sit there listening. Honestly, it's kind of surreal, like watching a nature documentary about some species I used to know, but don't anymore. "I have done everything for you," she keeps going. "I've tried to educate you, to help you become a better man. I've corrected your language, your biases, your harmful attitudes. I've carried the emotional labor in this relationship the entire time. And what do I get back? This cold, childish indifference." She finally stops pacing and plants herself in front of my desk, leans forward with her hands on her hips. "So that's it? After 2 weeks of pretending I don't exist, you have nothing to say?" I knew this moment was coming. Normally this is where I'd defend myself, argue, get dragged into another exhausting fight. But the last couple weeks had changed something in me. I look up at her calmly. "You're the one who said you weren't going to talk to me." I say, no anger in my voice, just stating a fact. "You said not to speak to you until I was ready to listen." I was just respecting that. That sentence makes her explode even more. "Don't you dare twist this back on me," she screams. "You knew exactly what I meant. I was teaching you a lesson. It's called setting boundaries." I shrug slightly. A boundary is something you set for yourself. Ignoring someone until they behave the way you want isn't a boundary. That's manipulation. The word hangs in the air between us. Manipulation, I had never said it out loud before, but the second it left my mouth, it felt completely true. Her face goes from red to pale for the first time in our entire relationship. She's losing the argument, and she knows it. None of her usual tactics are working. Not the anger, not the guilt, trips, not the lectures. So she pulls out the final weapon, the nuclear option. She straightens up slowly, face suddenly cold and serious. "You know what? Ryan," she says, "I can't do this anymore. I refuse to stay in a relationship with someone who refuses to grow, someone who clearly has no empathy." She takes a breath like she's about to deliver the dramatic final line of a play. If you don't care about me or my feelings, then I'm done. I'm leaving. I think we're over. She delivers it perfectly. Chin up arms, crossed waiting. She expects panic, expects me to jump up and beg, please don't leave. I'm sorry. I'll change. That's how the scene always goes, in her version of the story. I look at her, think about the past 2 years, the constant anxiety, the lectures, the eggshells, never feeling like I was good enough. Then I think about the last 2 weeks, the quiet, the freedom, the peace, the decision, suddenly feels incredibly simple. I nod slowly. Okay, just that one word. Okay? It's like a grenade went off in the room. Her face completely falls apart. Shock replacing the dramatic confidence, her mouth opens and closes a few times. No sound comes out. What? She whispers finally. I said okay. I repeat calmly. You're right. We should break up. I stand up from the chair for a second. She looks like she thinks I'm about to hug her or beg. Instead, I walk past her into the hallway, open the closet, grab the big roll of black trash bags we use for yard waste, walk back and hold them out to her. Here, I say. You'll probably need these for packing your stuff. She stares at the roll of bags like it's a snake about to bite her, her brain clearly struggling to process what's happening. The entire power balance of the last 2 years just flipped upside down in about 30 seconds. The person who always threatened to leave is now being handed garbage bags to pack. She doesn't move, just stands there frozen. I'll pack a small bag and stay at Mike's place tonight, I continue, already thinking practically, that way you'll have space to gather your things. Just text me when you're done and I'll come back. That finally snaps her out of it. You're kicking me out? She says quietly. You just said you were leaving, I reply. I'm just helping. She looks around the apartment like she's seeing it for the first time, then looks back at me, and for a moment I see real panic in her eyes. Not the theatrical kind she usually performed. Real panic her bluff had just been called. Slowly she takes the roll of trash bags from my hand, her fingers shaking slightly without another word. She walks into the bedroom, this time when the door closes, the click is quiet. Final, I go into the living room, grab my backpack, throw a few days of clothes and toiletries inside, send Mike a quick text. Hey man, can I crash on your couch for a bit? His reply comes back almost instantly. Of course, doors open. I grab my keys from the bowl by the door, pause for a moment and look around the apartment. Strangely, I don't feel sad or heartbroken. I feel light, like some huge invisible weight just lifted off my shoulders. I open the front door, step into the hallway, and close it behind me, walking down the stairs into the cool night air. I take a deep breath. First breath in, 2 years, that actually feels like mine, and it feels incredible.